Hello everyone, and welcome to Lancelot's Nerd Corner, where I'm proud to present another 12th scale figure review. Today, we'll be taking a look at the reissued Hush Catwoman by Mafex, and I'm really glad to be giving you my honest and detailed account of the figure. As always, let's start with the head sculpt, which I literally have zero complaints about. It's about as perfect as a final product as you can get. The paint app is all clean and tidy, without a single imperfection or mishap that I've been able to find. The sculpt work is really something special, and my favorite thing about it are the goggles. The frames are the exact same shape and style as in the comic, and the lenses are actually transparent plastic, so you can see the eyes and makeup underneath, although obviously it's a bit distorted. And there is a sculpted gray band going around the head. And at the back of the head are these subtle wrinkles sculpted at the bottom, which most people probably won't ever notice, but it's such a great detail to include, and enhances the realism by just that much. The figure also comes with two alternative head sculpts, one where she's gritting her teeth, and the other where her goggles are up. The gritting teeth head sculpt is virtually identical except for that expression change, and I really like how it was done. The lips are clearly defined with precise paint app, and the way the teeth are painted are also really good, as you can still distinguish between the upper and bottom rows without that ugly black line in the middle, like with the Hush Batman. With the other head sculpt with the goggles up, you can more clearly see how good the paint app on the makeup is, as well as those bright emerald colored eyes. The goggles on this sculpt are also still made of transparent plastic, but with the gray band at a different angle, obviously. And I really love the little detail of the small tuft of hair on her forehead, because it's a very common way she's portrayed in the comics when her goggles are up, and it further shows Mafex's commitment to comic accuracy and great attention to detail. Now let's take a look at the figure itself, which stands at roughly 6 inches or 15.3 centimeters. And the entire costume is a black leather/spandex catsuit, just like in the comic book. And Mafex did well to include other accurate details too, like the big buckle on the abdomen, the zipper ring on the neck, which is made out of a real metal ring, and you can see that sculpted line from the neck all the way down to the abdomen where the zipper would zip up and down. There's also some sculpted musculature on the arms and back. What's more is that this figure also comes with a swappable torso that's sculpted to look like her whip is wrapped around her waist, which was another common way she was drawn in the comic. There are 4 rows of the whip, and they have the same segmented design as the actual whip accessory, which we'll get to later. The only issue I have with the sculpt work of the figure is that I don't think they were generous enough with the yams.
Look how they massacred my boy.
And in terms of the color, there were some comic panels where the suit looks purple, whereas in other panels it clearly looks black. But this is most likely just due to the lighting of certain scenes in the comic book, and majority of the time it is quite clearly colored black, so I think Mafex made the right choice. And the suit has a slight shininess to it all over, except for the boots and hands, which have more of a matte finish. Speaking of which, the figure comes with a total of 12 hands, which aside from the standard relaxed gestures, come in a pair of fist, open palm, clawing, whip holding, and pointing gestures. The hands have those sharp nails that obviously serve as claws, and the way they're sculpted is very accurate to the comic. And they are also quite pointy, so try to be careful when handling them, especially when pegging them in. One last thing about the figure is that this shoulder joint socket cover thing is pretty loose. It's mainly meant to cover the shoulder peg, which is pretty long, and there is a key and socket for it near the bottom, but it can dislocate at points and makes the socket really loose, but it's not a huge issue, just something to be wary of. Now let's take a look at the figure's articulation, starting with the head, which actually has a backwards bent peg, so it can tilt up a lot, but can barely tilt down, and it can swivel and tilt side to side. The arms have butterfly action. They can swing forward and backward, basically 360 degrees. And same thing with the bicep swivel. and has a double jointed elbow, but you really can't take advantage of it all that much for some reason. The diaphragm joint can both crunch forward and extend backwards a lot, and the torso joint can move in basically all directions. The legs have a drop-down joint, which is pretty generous, so you can get the leg raised pretty high up and decently backwards as well. It can raise laterally this much, and you can take full advantage of the double-jointed knee bend. The ankles can swing forward and back a lot, and while there is a toe joint, you can't get much flexion out of it. Now that we've gone over the entire figure, let's take a look at all the accessories the figure comes with. It comes with the 2 alternative head sculpts, swappable torso, and 5 extra pairs of hands that we already covered, as well as a whip and a display base. With the whip, Mafex went with a really interesting way to implement articulation to it. Instead of having it wired like a cape, it's made up of 4 segments that can be oriented in different ways to achieve different positions. I don't know if it was the best option per se, but it's definitely an interesting one, and it is pretty fun to discover all the kinds of shapes you can make by rotating each segment. And one last thing, I don't know if Mafex intended it to be this way, but you can actually swap the middle 2 segments to get even more variations in articulation and poses. The display base is the standard clear plastic Mafex base with 3 different sockets for the articulated arm and the straight flight pole. And it comes with the 3 different grabbers: the crotch grabber, narrow waist grabber, and wide waist grabber. This Mafex Hush Catwoman was even better than I could have ever imagined. With incredible articulation for some really badass poses, accurate details to the comic books, and amazing attention to detail with several aspects of the figure, Mafex met all my expectations for what I wanted in a Catwoman figure. And I'm certain if you're a fan of the character, the comic book Hush, or even just a DC fan in general, you'll be blown away too. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this review helpful, please feel free to like and subscribe. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.